Okay, and we're back. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I may have just decided to put this as two videos because I am still very new to doing all of this and I don't really have any video editing experience, but we'll see what happens. So, Belisar was making a point about a pixie bard that was very frustrating because the GM that we had at the time was very, very green. He was still wet behind the ears, you might say, as far as running a game
Yeah.
goes.
Wet behind the ears. I think he was a little bit wet all over as far as that goes.
Basically. Well, let's move on to the next thing then. Magic items and equipment. Where do you guys fall on the spectrum of love and hate on that? Because I gotta tell you, personally, I got kind of a changeable relationship with it. Because it can be interesting, but it can just as easily be broken.
Yeah, there's
Well, it
a
all
balance
depends.
that has to be found there.
There really is. What were you saying,
I-
Belisar? We cut you off there.
it all depends if you're going from the standard items that are in the series, or if you're trying to create your own to add to the existing one that everyone is willing to use. Like for Pathfinder, or if the GM's willing
Are
to
you
allow
talking,
you to do it.
Belisar? Are you talking crap about my chest of infinite improbability? Don't you
No,
go
no, no,
talking
no,
crap
no.
about my goblin merchant,
No,
man.
no, 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 no. I'm saying is an item such as the
Your
blessed
audio went funky
and
there for on me.
On me as well, but it's okay. You were saying?
the blessed anvil hammer of Bahamut.
Oh yes,
that
that
was
was
fun.
funny.
That was
I
fun.
never got to use that, but that would have been an amazing weapon.
It
I mean,
certainly
it
would
had
have.
Warhammer stats on it.
And it also did both bludgeoning and piercing, depending on which side you hit them with.
And then freezing.
Well, that's because it was blessed by Bahamut, and Bahamut's element is ice.
Yeah. Plus, it gave you back the movement speed that you needed for like a standard one-handed mace or something. Because without that blessing,
Without the blessing, it would have been technically a three-handed weapon, because it's an entire anvil, but it was blessed, and so it was lighter and was... If it was a Dragonborn that was wielding it, I think it was a one-handed.
Yes.
If it was anybody else, it would have been two-handed, because it was still blessed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, like I said, without that blessing, it would have been heavy as hell, and it would have, reduced speed and movement.
And it also
As
would have
far
reduced
as-
damage because of the difficulty of wielding it at all.
I mean, as far as unique custom weapons go, though, that one was pretty cool.
It was pretty
Yes,
cool.
it was. That and the Drow gunslinger character I had that had the what was that thing? The tri-rifle.
Yes, the tri-rifle had 3 barrels.
No, not tri-rifle. It was a rifle that you could take the barrel off and use it as a pistol.
That's right. It was a rifle and a pistol, and a sniper rifle. I think it was like it covered all 3 ranges, all 3 range bands of close, medium, and long. Yeah.
Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Creating a 3-barreled rifle wouldn't be so bad either.
I mean, a 3-barreled rifle would be really cool. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, you could actually enhance it with different abilities as well.
Yeah.
One barrel for something, and another barrel for something else, and then.
Although, to be honest, I don't really use the whole the gun system to the full extent that Pathfinder wants me to, because as broken as spellcasters are, a gunslinger has the chance to be even more broken, because all they need to do is have spell... what was it called? Spell cartridges. Where it's a bullet that instead of firing a bullet, it fires a spell as though they were a spellcaster with the proper spell level and everything. And so you literally could just have any spell you want. You could have a gun that shoots miracle bullets that literally cast miracle on somebody every time. You could have them that
Or
cast cure heavy wounds. There you go, and shoot somebody back to health.
or have one that have a set of bullets that do magic missile.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Guaranteed damage.
The Pathfinder Gunslinger class is the non-caster equivalent of Bard bullshittery.
Yes, it really is. It is definitely some fuckery going on there. Bards.
And it appears that Balasar has muted himself.
There
only
he is.
Only because I had to burp.
Well, then it's appreciated. That's fine. That's fine. So, moving on to magic itself in D&D. I know that you like magic, Animus. You tend to play magic characters when the option is there. Even when the option isn't there.
I'm good at it. What can I say?
Of course, I did like your was a gnome rogue character in the first campaign we did together as a group.
That was a halfling.
That's true. Halflings are bigger than gnomes. It's very important.
To have cut out.
Can you hear me now?
I did.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Because I'm definitely here.
I think I'm having issues connecting with contacting the Discord voice server.
Maybe. Balasar is also kind of having some audio issues. He's got some distortion coming through sometimes.
And feedback and whatnot.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But what about you, Balasar? Where do you fall on liking or disliking magic in D&D?
I mean, it all depends on the spell you had to use. I mean, I had that tiefling warlock that had the arms of Hadar. I had to make sure that all the rest of the group was not in proximity.
That's a fact.
Attack.
That's
and
a fact.
If you don't know what Arms of Hadar is, it's basically a shadow attack that comes from beneath your character and shoots in a 360-degree attack in several increments.
Shadow tentacles that attack people like an explosion around you. Very much fun. Very much dangerous.
You had to make sure that you notify the people in your group that you're about to do this, so they're allowed to guard themselves or duck.
Or get away from it, yeah.
Before it happens.
I will say I find magic to be very complicated in a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, like a lot of D&D systems, and I'm going to keep coming back to this all the time anyway because I'm a massive Star Wars nerd regardless, deal with it. But the Force, despite technically being magic, I love the Force in the Star Wars systems that I've played because, with the exception of Edge of the Empire or Force and Destiny or Age of Rebellion, the Force has always been a very simple system of doing things. It's always been very, very simple. You have to beat their AC with a use the Force check, and if you succeed to use the Force check, then you do the thing. If you succeed it by this much, you do extra things. And there's even
first attempt.
Well, I mean, it's like, for instance, it's there's a force there's a force power called rebuke. That if somebody fires a bolt at you, just rebuke. You basically throw up a shield of force around you, and it blocks the blow. If you succeed, it does that. If you succeed by 10 over the number that you had to roll to manage to succeed, then not only did you stop the bolt from hitting you, but you actually deflected it somewhere. If you succeeded by 20 past the thing, past the number you're supposed to meet, then not only did you deflect it, you deflected it right back at them. And basically all of the force powers have something like that. And even some of the other force techniques and such do that. And there is a very famous, there's a, well, I would say famous, but it's not really famous necessarily because people don't know about it. But there is a system of, what's it called, force training techniques that you can go through, and each of those work the same way. If you succeed, this thing happens. If you succeed by X amount, extra things happen. And it's a really cool system where there's it does get
You
kind of
literally
broken.
cut out for about a minute.
I cut out for a full minute? Y'all didn't hear any of that?
Almost a whole minute.
Last thing I heard was force training techniques.
Okay. Well, force training techniques. If you succeed, you get a bonus. If you succeed by extra amounts, you get a bigger bonus. All the way up to a massive bonus of some kind. Like one of them was, if you succeed, then your character gets like extra health. If you succeed really well, not only do they get extra health, but they can breathe underwater. And if you succeeded by the maximum possible amount, then you are completely immune to poisons. Just any poisons whatsoever, because you have used the force to be able to do that. To be able to just not even matter as far as poisons go in the air. And all of them are that way. There's all kinds of different things for that. I enjoyed it a lot.
And so what if Jedi can't swim? Who needs to swim when you can breathe underwater?
That's my point, friend. That is my point right there. That is my point right there.
Yeah, I did like that first attempt of it where it was just the three of us. You were doing the GMing, and the whole story was really good.
Well, that's because I was using an interesting period in time. Because it's
Yes.
a period in time that nobody really has written anything about. I mean, there's some information about it, which, for the audience out there, if there is one, first and second video, who knows, maybe someday when we all become famous YouTubers. But the period when the Jedi were first formed, they had these massive pyramid ships, and they all went to this planet called Tython. They landed there. They started teaching people how to use the Force and stuff. It was crazy and it was weird, and nobody knew what was really going on. No one's written any books about what happened during that period. It's just always been alluded to, and so I wanted to go ahead and do some stuff during that time because I thought it would be really weird and interesting and different. And so Jedi Academy, back when the Jedi are still a new thing, and one of the things that people definitely don't know very much about is that the Sith were originally a species, and they were originally part of the Jedi, back when it was still called the Jedi. Because evolution, I don't know, whatever. But it was before the schism that created the dark side and the light side viewpoints and all that stuff, and it was interesting. And there was a cult of pure-blooded Sith that were assassinating people and doing stuff. It was a lot of fun, I thought.
Yeah. We really should go back and play that system now that we've got a bigger group and you've theoretically had time to work on developing that system further.
Yeah, I need to do some more work on that.
You did have one really specific character that.
Hello? Animus Balasar?
I hear you, Mick.
Yeah, I hear you.
Balasar cut out.
Yeah, Balasar, what were you saying?
that particular unique character you created that ended up becoming a teacher at the academy?
Oh, yes, Dane Core, Master Core. Which that actually is not a unique character necessarily. That was my character from the Star Wars campaign.
Was unique to me.
It was unique to you, yes, and that storyline is that storyline. Explaining what that character was would take a very long time. The gist of it is that's the one that fell to the dark side and got redeemed, but it was an alternate timeline of that character where when he did the transfer essence and his body got destroyed, another form of his soul shattered into a different timeline and basically appeared fully formed on Tython during the time of the Jedi, talking about all this crazy crap and has lightsabers when lightsabers aren't even a thing yet, and basically gives the Jedi, long before anything else happens, the technology for lightsabers and advanced holotechnology, and tells them about all kind of shit that happened in his future. And it was a lot of fun. And he even lost some of his connection to the Force, because the way that he used to see the Force as a web was no longer working properly. He still saw a web, but it was always blurry. You guys never even got to hear that part. That the way he saw the Force was a web, and that it started becoming blurry, and that he was even hearing a voice every once in a while when he would like look into the Force to try and get answers for stuff. That character was a lot of fun. I loved him so much. And I'm rambling again, like I do all the time.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah, it is. It's all good. So, moving on. Stories. Story hooks. What kind of story hooks do you guys like? Do you like the traditional, just everybody's somehow already a group so it doesn't matter with introductions and then X thing happens? Or do you like meeting people for the first time and trying to figure out who each other is and earn each other's trust and moving on from there? Or, like, what do you like?
It all depends. It all depends. I kind of liked when we first started where they had to introduce each other. They kind of shadowed each other to get towards the beginning of the quest, and then having to prove each other to the group that you were worthy of being in the group in the first place.
You're talking about Pathfinder, right?
Right.
Right. That is honestly, I think, the best story hook I've ever done, where all of the players were in the same city for whatever reason, and the town crier says that the king in the castle of the capital city that they're in is calling for adventurers to come forth and go find out why all of the frost giants are coming down from the mountains and destroying villages and shit. And so the party goes up there, and each of them goes to sign the contract, and then as they're all leaving, they're kind of stalking each other and eventually joining up in a group, and they're kind of like, well, I don't know if I can trust you. Well, I don't know if I can trust you either. Well, how about you work with me for now? Okay.
Yeah, that part with the Catfoot Ranger character of mine who had to prove that he was good with the bow by shooting a bar sign from like a good bit away.
I forget how far away he was, but yeah, he had to shoot right into the sign. Either right into the sign or like right through part of it. I forget, but
there was a painted on star on the sign, and I kind of pointed it out and basically said I'm going to hit that on that sign over there, and I had to roll correctly, and
you managed to do it. Yep, just barely. Yeah,
I just made the sign wiggle.
Yeah, but still, that is honestly my favorite story hook that I've used. That one, yeah.
I mean, the story hooks, it kind of depends on the setting for the campaign as to what makes more sense to go with, whether everybody doesn't know, where everybody already knows each other, and has worked together in the past for whatever reason.
Or is meeting for the first time, yeah. Which, Night's Watch... Hello?
Hello?
James went out on me. All I heard was a little bit, and then...
Can you hear Animus now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Alright, good.
Good.
Okay. So, Night's Watch is not really my favorite story hook that I've used at all, mostly because it was just kind of... Y'all are already at the wall. It was easier that way. I really, really wanted to have the whole party present for the start, and they weren't, and so the story hook I had originally in mind I couldn't do, because it wouldn't have made any sense. Which, I know you guys have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, so I'm going to go ahead and explain it to both of you and the audience. I created a custom house in Game of Thrones. My other two partners here know about this. The house is in the far north. It has a connection to the Night's Watch on the wall. Firstborn son of the noble house and firstborn son of all the small folk under that house always sent to the wall as soon as they reach the right age, as soon as they reach whatever it was, 12, 14, I forget. And
12 is the minimum age for taking the oath.
Right. And the lord of that house, which, because of the deal he made with the Night's Watch, he took the name Black. So Lord William Black, every year when he sends the next group off, he goes and he gives a speech to them, basically apologizing for having made that deal in the first place that has decided their fate for them, and tells them that, that's why they were taught how to read and write. That's why they were taught how to wield a sword and shoot a crossbow and read a map from the time that they were old enough to talk, basically. And it really would have been great, but I didn't get a chance to do it because the whole party wasn't there, and I would not have been able to do it twice in a row, not with the same fervor, if you will. And also, I know you, Belisar, and you, Animus, you guys said y'all weren't disinterested by it, but from my end, from where I was sitting, it really kind of felt like when time came for you guys to say the oath as a party, it really felt to me like I was the only one interested in the oath. I mean, I know you guys say y'all weren't unhappy about it, but it really felt like it to me. It really did. Maybe I'm just paranoid, but that's what it felt like to me.
I think a large part of that was because some of the others really weren't interested in doing the oath and didn't see the point in doing the oath.
They didn't see the point
in... They weren't really serious about it.
Belisar? They
weren't really serious.
Yeah.
They weren't really serious about it.
Yeah, I mean,
it just took the wind out of the sails.
Yeah,
it really did. And honestly, I had no energy to argue about whether or not people were taking it seriously, but just, I mean, it really felt like the group was just kind of going through the motions. And even when the other two joined at a later date and they did the oath themselves, they even seemed kind of uninterested.
Yeah.
And they didn't see the point in having their characters at the beginning of a Night's Watch campaign say the oath of the Night's Watch. Can we take a moment to appreciate that? Seriously, can we take a moment to appreciate that? That kind of hurt me.
Well, if it was in the book and it was in the series itself, then it should have been done.
I mean, even beyond that, it's such a serious part of being a brother of the Night's Watch. Saying the oath. The oath is so important. And anybody that's watched the show knows this. Everybody that's read the books knows this. It is a constant reminder in there that there is important things going on, that it is an important part of who you are as a brother of the Night's Watch. Every chapter it gets mentioned when it's talking about somebody who's in the Night's Watch, whether it's John, whether it's Sam, whether it's one of the other guys that were in there very briefly as an epilogue or a prologue talking about the Watch. It is always mentioned, at least. Because it is...
Like
It's the most important thing you do as a Brother of the Night's Watch is say the oath. More important than
There have
anything
been a few.
else.
There have been a few conversations between characters where how nervous they were or when they took the oath or what they did afterwards, being nervous in general or anxious or flat out
Yeah,
uneasy.
yeah. And let's not forget, there's also the incredibly important scene of Samuel Tarley deciding to forsake his father's gods. And afterward, when John asks him, well, why did you go to the trees with me to do it? He even says, at least in the books, that the Seven never did anything for him. His life was miserable. His family hated him. And so he figured maybe the old gods would listen to his prayers since the Seven clearly didn't. But let's continue moving on before this ends up being like a 3-hour long video.
Right.
Shall we? It's already at an hour and a half right now.
Yeah.
And that's really long, which admittedly this is an hour-long video and a 30-minute video technically right now. But moving on, keeping it interesting. I like to think I keep things interesting. I certainly try to keep them interesting.
You have.
The way that I try to keep things interesting, though, is by doing the unexpected. Making things happen that maybe don't make sense at the time, making there be little details and clues that maybe y'all don't even notice, but that are very important, and that if y'all do pick up on them, it usually leads to something. It might just be that, you're going down a hallway and I say that there's a door that has a red light coming from the other side, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with what y'all are there for, but it might lead to something important or something kind of cool or weird or whatever. I mean, I had a character in a former campaign that was supposed to be a rogue and a thief that ended up becoming a necromancer because there was something weird going on in the room that he was in that had nothing to do with his character or his storyline, and he actually pursued it, and it turned out to be a undead spirit of a former necromancer that wanted to take over the world.
Yeah. I mean, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, these things do happen, yes.
What was that that game? I know it was Game of Thrones. We were trying to do something, playtesting or something, and I ended up creating a was it a red
priest paladin? Yes.
A red priest
paladin. You were like a crusader for Relor, the god of light in Bravos.
Yeah, that was the main Song of Ice and Fire system.
Yes, the Green Ronin Song of Ice and Fire system. Very, very fun system for all you out there watching this video if y'all are still there, and I certainly hope you are. I don't know about these two.
I still don't appreciate you smacking my character in the back of the head with your mace and killing them, by the way.
I mean, really, Belisar, that was kind of mean, let's be honest.
He was a character who was pious and cruel, so...
That's true.
I was trying to fit the bill, so to speak.
So, in his defense, Animus, you were a prostitute. And that's just like that's a middle finger right in the God Lord of Light's face.
Yeah, maybe. But I gave him like the perfect distraction so that I could get away, and he fell for it and then hit me in the back of the head.
That's true. That's true.
Although true. I did kick that door to splinters just to get to you.
Yes, he certainly did kick a door to splinters. Yeah. Well, an air of mystery. I like to keep an air of mystery going on with what's happening in a campaign and where a campaign is going and all that. I also generally, as a player, try and keep my character at least a little mysterious if I can, which is a lot easier when I'm playing a more complicated character than just, a super extreme paladin for Bahamut.
Yeah.
With that one.
I mean, I think I do a pretty good job of keeping how my characters will react to certain situations fairly mysterious. I mean...
You certainly do to me, at least. I'm never quite sure how your character's going to react to something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's sometimes it's easier to get away with shenanigans like that by taking opportunities when they present themselves that you're expected not to take.
Even if they may not exactly be good ideas in the first place. Like, for
Yes.
instance, sacrificing your soul to the god of death.
It was that or be killed by a dragon.
It really
What
was,
would
that's
you
true.
Yeah, potato, potato.
And that deal came in handy in more ways than one later on anyway.
That's true. It certainly did. Well, the last topic I have for discussion tonight is what a twist, as I had written it in my little outline that I showed you guys. Which, of course, is the idea of having a twist in a campaign where you think something's going in one direction and then the DM, me in a lot of cases in our group, just pulls the rug out from under you. Do you guys like that? Do you not like it? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it needs to be reined in and an adventure needs to be kind of, at least every once in a while, it needs to go where it looks like it's going? Or what do you think?
I think it's far more interesting if it goes in a totally different direction than expected, but you know me.
I do know you.
I do things that lead to those kinds of twists. So.
You, sir, are shenanigans. You, sir, are shenanigans.
My shenanigans are funny and they work well, so.
What about you, Balasar?
I mean, again, going back to our first Pathfinder campaign, you know, at the tail end of it, we didn't really know was the tail end of it, and coming across the final character, the final boss, without actually knowing that was him until we actually, stepped through the doorway or took a look. That was unexpected.
I have to say that is. I have to say that is really kind of my favorite thing that I've ever done with D&D was that whole storyline about why are the frost giants coming down, and then hey, we think the dragons are back and we need people to find evidence of it, and it goes from there with the weird village attacks that didn't look like dragons had been involved in it at all, and then there was the one survivor of an attack. I think my favorite thing that happened in that entire campaign is when y'all asked that survivor, "What happened? Who attacked you?" Because I see dragon fire, but I don't see dragons. Who was it that did this? And he stares at you right in the eyes and says, "I don't know." The look on the party's face was truly and absolutely priceless.
Unfortunately, I think I was at the New Orleans Comic Con for that particular session.
You might have been. You might have been in New Orleans for that session. Maybe. But, I mean...
Partially.
I really think that was my favorite storyline that I've done overall, because y'all were fighting an enemy that you had no way to learn about. No one had ever heard of them before. No one had seen them before, and if they had, they don't remember it because everywhere that they go, after they're done with with whatever they're doing, if there's anybody alive even, they have no memory of what just happened. All they know is that 1 minute everything was fine, the next minute everything's dead. Sometimes including themselves. And the people that were in armor, if you recall, they were slashed and stabbed and cut apart, and there was nothing but ash remaining inside. And the people that weren't wearing armor were just piles of ash. It was great.
I mean, I think that campaign, I used the single best line I've ever used in a game as well.
Which line would that be, Animus?
The one that earned me the free level.
Right, the one that we can't remember anymore to this day.
Yeah.
Are you there, Malice?
And
There he is.
and the whole asking the strange one for enough gold to
buy anything we want.
expedite. Yeah.
That really wasn't the best thing ever. I mean, whenever
not
that was asked, I could have told you
the whole thing was.
It really wasn't as smooth as asking for an extra level, and having the ask for an extra level be so well said and just well designed that I just had to give in and let you have it. I mean, I really kind of sat there like, well, damn it, I have to give him a level with that. I don't even remember what he said. I really don't remember it, Animus. I don't think you do either.
I vaguely remember it as something along the lines of, I'm not asking you to make me more powerful for dealing with this threat. I simply want to be more powerful for dealing with the threat that you put my race in place to deal with to begin with.
Right, that's what it was. Something like that. It was great. Yeah. And also there was another great twist with that whole situation. The glowing green sword that the bad guy had. At the very end, the werewolf goes in all hulked out, superstar mode, goes and attacks him, and the superpowered leper, with his weak, rotting arm, just reaches out and grabs the werewolf's arm before he can attack, and then cuts it off with the radioactive sword, without even breaking a sweat. That was a very fun campaign.
That was somewhat of an occult-based campaign before the occult-based campaigns came out, wasn't it?
Yes, that for those of you that don't know, Pathfinder eventually released a book about how to do an occult campaign, and it talks about having an air of mystery, about keeping the players from knowing what's really going on, and having stories within stories and clues that lead to nothing but still actually have a connection to what's really going on, and having multiple storylines all kind of happening at once and revolving around each other, and some things go to their own ends, and other things start halfway through what's going on, and I was doing all of that stuff before Pathfinder made the system, and so I was like wanting to do a new system using that, like a new storyline rather, using all of that information. And when I got to the information, I started reading it, going, "Huh, I was already doing that. Cool."
Yeah, and then there's the chest of infinite improbability.
Oh, the chest of infinite improbability. For the audience out there who's watching, assuming you're still interested an hour and a half into this. Almost two, yeah. 38 minutes on this recording. The chest of infinite improbability was a chest that the goblin merchant that owns it describes as literally containing anything at all, including you. And whenever a person wanted him to get something out of it, they would roll a d20, I would roll a d20, and I had a chart for the player and the GM, and whatever number they rolled was a descriptor, the number I rolled was a descriptor, and I came up with something on the fly from there for what it was, because it could be literally anything. And some of my favorite things that came out of it were a magical James Hetfield's guitar, but powered by magic for a bard. There was also a demonic suit of armor for another character that what it would do is drain your life to give you better power and stuff. And hi there, Calicio.
Hey.
How you doing? We're doing good. It's almost 2 hours into the recording. This is a very long video.
Welcome.
I'm glad I could finally make it.
It is, yes. So let's get a couple of things from you. First of all, Calicio, what was the first system you ever played? Actually, how did you get into D&D? How did you first learn about it, play it, all that good stuff? Like, what happened?
Okay, so you were actually my introduction to the D&D world. So
I was.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So actually, I've known about it for quite some time. It's just Actually finding people to play with has been very
Difficult.
difficult.
Yeah. So then I imagine the first system you played was Pathfinder with us.
I would be right.
That would be correct. All right. Well, that. Do you have a favorite race or class within Pathfinder?
In particular, I've always been favoriting the elves. So
Elves can be fun. What about a class? Do you have a favorite class?
nothing comes to mind in particular. Typically, I stick to either shield-bearing, heavy armored knights like a paladin,
Yeah.
or
a fighter.
Or I go with a wizard or some cross between the two.
Yeah, you did have that Black Blade Magus character
Yes. Yes. Which, for those of you that don't know, there is such a thing as an archetype in Pathfinder, especially, that allows you to play a certain class, but it gives it a different spin on it. Which the Magus is kind of like a fighter, kind of like a sorcerer. Because they still have an actual weapon, but they do magic with their offhand, and they can even use their weapon as a focus for their magic. And the Black Blade Magus in particular, whatever their weapon is, after they reach a certain level, it reveals itself to be mystical and have a sentient soul of its own, basically. The blade, whatever color it would have been otherwise, turns black, and it starts being able to speak to them in their mind, and they can have independent conversations, and it gets its own stats, and it can do its own perception rolls and tell the person that wielding it, hey, since you didn't see it coming, hey, there's something over there. Watch out for that trap below. It was it was really cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
I mean, since he had created that character, it got me interested in making my own Black Blade Magus character.
Which you still can if we go back to Pathfinder. When we go back to Pathfinder, I should say. Which will happen eventually.
It did have that particular type of weapon, plus it had the mystic, was it that Targe, that shield that with the spikes that had that was also magic focus?
The spell focused Targe, I think, is what it was. I don't remember.
It was around the same time where he had that encounter where he got with was it ended up being.
Do you remember Calicio?
Is this the encounter with the drow?
The drow? The drow?
The drow, yeah.
Maybe.
No. It was the during the campaign where he had someone got touched in the head and by death or something, and then
the God of Death. No, that was something else. That was something else.
The Balasar's Magus was the second Hemisphere campaign.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the spell-focused Targe was a chest of infinite improbability find.
Yeah. There we go.
And then I had that whip that was specifically the
useless
Chaos God's Bane.
Yeah, something like that.
Or something.
Like I said, useless.
It was pretty useless, admittedly, but I mean that's the warning that you have before you even pick up the dice to roll for an infinite probability item, is that it could be useless.
Well, it had grappling, plus it had the ability to divinity or something in it. It was able to go up against undead or something and used holy damage against it.
I'm not sure. I mean, I go through so much information when I do these campaigns that I end up forgetting a lot of stuff. I've probably forgotten more about individual campaigns than I've ever learned about systems. It's just so much stuff happens every time. It's a lot.
The best weapon to come out of that chest for that particular campaign was the throwing katana.
That's true. That's true. The throwing katana, for those of you in the audience, was a katana that could be used as a throwing weapon, and it would come back to you after you threw it. It still did the normal damage, too, just it was enchanted, and you could throw it. It would attack somebody up to, I think, 12 squares away, maybe? I don't remember. It wasn't a huge range, but just, yeah. It was great.
But paired with the fighter that had all the feats for being able to attack damn near endlessly on his turn.
That's true. That was a different character, actually, for those of you listening in. But yeah, it was it was very broken. But then again, that was kind of my fault. That was my fault as well, though, because I'm the one that helped him make that character and helped him make that character be able to attack and again and again and again with all 3 attacks that he had per turn.
Until he rolled a 1 and the returning throwing katana didn't return.
Yeah, there's that.
Speaking of, the Pathfinder, the
yes.
only session I had, let's see, what exactly did go on that ship? Because I only remember bits and pieces, and I like to recall the whole thing, if you don't mind.
What ship do you mean, though? Because I know that y'all were on a ship, and the ship got stopped by the drow, and got shaken down for passage because the drow own the ocean like the mafia.
It was my character's aunt who had the ship, and then his character, Calicia's character, wanted to duel her, and she ended up kicking the crap out of him.
No, that was the werewolf that wanted to duel her, and she kicked the crap out of him.
Yeah.
He also wanted to duel that gigantic Naga, and that Naga kicked the crap out of him as well. And then it broke both of his arms as well, and it gave him a healing potion that was a thick serum that was milky white. And we kept making jokes about it. And I eventually told him that no, it wasn't what he thought it was. It was not what he was expecting. It was actually just a healing potion, but a really weird one. Because my Nagas are very strange creatures.
It was still funny to joke about.
Well, it was funny to joke about that, and there was also the fact that when his character got touched with that sword and was unconscious and could not go back to human form, y'all kept asking, well, is there anything else that we notice about him? I mean, is there anything else about him? I finally got tired of y'all asking. We're like, yeah, he's got a giant boner too, and it's not going to go away.
I remember that. Oh god.
The werewolf of the infinite boner, yeah. It was great. It was great. Well,
so what all did I miss? Are you guys
an entire discussion, to be perfectly honest. I have the outline in front of me right here. It started with it starts with the introductions, everybody saying their name and how they first got into D&D. Then we went into kind of an explanation of what Dungeons & Dragons actually is, what a D20 system is, a couple other stuff like that. We talked about the first system that we all played, which for me was Star Wars. For Animus, I believe you said it was 3.5?
Yeah.
And I think Balasar, you said it was 3.5 as well.
Yeah.
Which for you, Calicio, was obviously Pathfinder. Then we talked about other systems that we've played, which I've played a ton of different systems before. The others have played a few as well. We talked about what our favorite system was that we've played, favorite character that we've made, what system it was, what race, favorite races, favorite classes and archetypes. Then we went into the longest section so far, which was tips and tricks for new players and stuff, about stat rolling, character creation, quick guides for setting up a new character if you're new to stuff, about whether or not you should focus on skills a lot or a little, about feats and worrying about them, and features and magic items and equipment, which magic items and equipment gets kind of difficult and broken. And then we started talking about magic in D&D at all, and magic characters. Then finally we moved on to story hooks, like how to get an adventure started with whether or not it's just everybody's already in a group and then someone shows up and gives them a quest or what. And we didn't actually get to the point of dealing with player choice, which is kind of difficult because I thought there would be somebody else that was a DM as well in the group that I could ask them about how they deal with it, which the way I deal with it is generally deciding whether or not it would be a good idea to let the players do that, and if it's a really bad idea, Animus for a fact can tell you that if it's really just a terrible idea, I will straight up tell the players, no, you can't do that. Just no.
Yeah.
I actually had to tell one player that he wasn't getting any XP for the sessions because his character was spending all of his time in a guard barracks training with the guards, whereas the other characters were going around and talking to people and doing important things in the storyline and just.
And going places we shouldn't go and finding things like Valyrian steel daggers in piles of ancient dragon shit.
And of course also fossilized, burnt up human skulls.
So I wanted
and a mummified human heart.
That too,
Then
yes.
somebody should have known better than to show off in the middle of the frickin' throne room.
Thank you, Animus. Really, Belisar, what were you thinking?
So maybe we should make some notes for our next session.
Yes, I am going to have a nice little discussion with you guys afterwards about that. But real quick, though, as an ending, for those of you in the audience that are still around, thank you for sticking with us this long. I know it's been a long ride, but hey, you got to the end, and we thank you for it. Please tune in next time. I don't know when that's going to be yet, but it certainly will be a next time. Like and comment if you want. It'd be very much appreciated. I'm not really going to ask anybody to subscribe yet because this is the very first video, or first two, depending, because you weren't around for it yet, Calicio, but it turns out that the Xbox app just stops recording at 1 hour.
Oh,
apparently.
I forgot to warn you about that.
Yeah, that would have been a good warning to have ahead of time, but I'll worry about that next time. I mean, this is already moving to 2 hours anyway, which is longer than I thought it was going to be. In the first place. So,
conversation, man, it can go on.
So, yeah, everybody out there, thank you very much for being around this long. Like, comment, subscribe, share it around. See you guys next time.